When or why would I use a classic stud? All right, guys, before we get into this video, we've got 3 Twix litters on the ground right now. One of them is a 3-piece, one is a 12-piece, and one is a 9-piece. You guys hit the inbox if you're interested. We have also a super nice up-and-coming pup off of him. We're not going to post him yet. And we also have a nice female coming up off of him that we're going to post in some future videos. And you guys are about to find out what Twix is all about as far as being a producer. Now let's get into the video. So the question is, when or why would I use a classic stud? I'm telling you guys, I would never use a classic stud. No matter how clean this classic stud is, the dog lacks breed type. So you lack bone, you lack body girth, you're lacking muscle mass, you're lacking a lot in the headpiece, which is a huge deal. Top skull is going to be a big deal, muzzle length. All that stuff's going to make that head look really classic and really long, snippy, snipey, whatever you haters want to say in the comments, whatever. I call it snippy. But anyway, why would I use a classic stud? I wouldn't. I could see, you know, there being a benefit to it. I would say maybe, you know, 6 to 10 years ago or so, because there probably wasn't as nice of product out there carrying good structure that had really good breed type as a high percentage, is what I'm saying. I'm sure there was plenty of studs back then, you know, that had good structure and had breed type. So 5 or 10 years ago, you know, there were just the breed in general was just more classic. And you see that, you know, you see that today. The dogs today are a lot more bully, you know, a lot more breed type, a lot better head pieces. You see a lot more cheeks, more top skull, more bone, more body girth, more muscle mass. And I'm not saying overdone. I'm saying the breed itself is supposed to be extreme. So why would we want to breed a dog that's more classic that lacks type when there's tons of super nice dogs out here now, especially in today's world, that have, you know, a solid front shoulder set, a really nice rear end, a really good headpiece. They have great movement. So what I'm trying to take into account and let you guys see is you have 2 dogs. One is classic, pocket. One is nice and extreme and pocket. Both have equal structure, equal movement. This one just has more breed type. This one's more classic. Which dog are you going to breed? No brainer. And that's my point, guys. I would never use a classic stud. I would never use a classic stud. The only way that I would probably use a little bit of a leaner, maybe, style dog is if it had a hell of a headpiece and the pedigree itself was super bully. And that's a maybe. And the dog would have to be just killer. There'd have to be something about that dog that just set it off for me, and I'd have to use that dog. And I would probably take that dog to a crazy extreme female, you know, like an overdone style female. But that's just my take on it, guys. I would never use a classic stud today. 5 to 10 years ago, you know, I would use a dog that maybe is considered a little bit more classic in today's world, but no. And I think that's a really good topic, because things have changed a lot, you know, over the years. Every 3 to 5 years, there's a whole different strand or strain of a bloodline or a certain dog that's been used a lot throughout all of our pedigrees, and it changes the way things work in the future. Just like Dax, he was a game changer, you know. There's been a lot of dogs like that. Rocco, another one, huge. Grim, huge game changer. So I would never use a classic stud. I don't really see the need in it. I mean, at some point, the classic has to fall off and basically be irrelevant in today's world. Not that it wasn't important back then, because you were breeding bulldog, straight bulldogs with Amstaff or pit bull or whatever it may be, or just a leaner, you know, classic style bully. They were taking that to bulldog females or exotic-y style dogs, real heavy bulldog. And back then there was purpose for that. They were breeding with purpose to get good front shoulder sets, to get good rear ends, to get more top skull, more bone, more body girth, shorter backs. It's tricky, you know, and that's the thing that's real neat about it, is this breed is so new. It's only been around for about 30 years. So, but in today's world, no, I would never use a classic stud because there's too many nice product out there. There's too many nice specimens out there that carry amazing features, traits, breed type that pertain to the standard, movement, structure, I mean, everything. There's too many nice dogs out there for me to revert back to the pit bull and have a classic that has no top skull, no bone, no muscle mass. You're not benefiting from it, is the biggest thing. So anyway, guys, another question that we're going to talk about real quick is what are the hardest flaws to fix? That's a really good question too. But I think that's all going to depend on what you lack in your yard. Because you may have real stiff rears throughout your entire yard. But say you have amazing front shoulder sets and really good fronts, like really nice front feet, front assemblies just in general. But you have stiff rears and say longer backs. Well, I may have really nice rears and shorter backs. So for me, fixing your flaw that's real prominent throughout your entire yard and your program, that's going to be more difficult for you to fix that than it is me. Because you have stiff rears and long backs, I've got short backs and good rears, you know? So that all depends on what you lack in your yard. So hardest flaws to fix, you know, I mean, you could look at what's recessive and what's dominant. I do think Easty-Westy is probably one of the harder things to fix. I think breed type itself is probably one of the hardest flaws to fix, because if your dog lacks type, that's basically considered a flaw. So I think that is actually probably one of the hardest things to fix, because if you take a super bully dog and you breed it to a super bully dog, you're going to get at least probably 30 to 50% of that litter is going to be pretty bully, like super bully. But if you breed a dog that is not really extreme by no means, but kind of riding the classic line to another dog that is about the same, you're not going to get extreme product. You're not going to get dogs that have good breed type. You're going to lack breed type through the whole entire litter, unless you just get lucky and produce an anomaly, you know, that just comes out of nowhere. And that's another good topic to talk about as well, because a lot of these super extreme dogs that are out there right now, these 90-pound pockets, these 95-pound pockets, they come from dogs that are like 80 pounds, you know, 75, 80-pound pockets. That's a good topic to talk about, but we'll go back real quick on one of the hardest things to fix. And I think breed type is one of the most important things to fix. As long as you're breeding a dog that's just kind of, you know, well-rounded, pretty solid dog, you're going to get, you know, some well-rounded traits. You're going to get good features. If you have a dog that has a good structure, good front shoulder set, good rear end, nice headpiece, good fronts, good bone, you know, some nice breed type, but, you know, very functional, very well-balanced, it moves well, chances are you're probably going to get what he is. If you're breeding that to some nice, you know, quality females, that's what you're going to get. One of the reasons why I think Easty-Westy is one of the harder things to fix is because you have multiple things that could contribute to, you know, Easty-Westy, turning the fronts, you know, whatever you may call it. Easty-Westy, a lot of times if you have tight elbows, you know, the elbows of the dogs, the shoulder blades hug real tight right here, and you got tight elbows, it causes a little bit of, you know, turn in the fronts. You'll see dogs like that where their feet kind of converge, and when that happens, they kind of compensate here, and the feet will turn out. You'll see a lot of that. Also, if you have weak pasterns, if the dog's down in the pasterns or weak in the pasterns, you know, if they're super weak in the pasterns, it kind of, you know, those ligaments and stuff are kind of loose. They're not real tight and erect. So I think some of that can cause some of that going on too. That's why I think Easty-Westy is probably one of the harder things to get rid of, or, you know, as far as flaws to fix. In my experience, long backs are easy to fix. Cowhawked rears are pretty easy to fix. And I'm just talking about simple flaws, but like I said, guys, in general, that's just kind of what I think. In general, I think that, you know, one of the hardest things to fix as far as flaw goes is lacking breed type. Because I've done it. I've bred an extreme dog to a dog that's not extreme, and you're only going to get like less than 10% of the litter is going to be more on that extreme side. And I don't mean overdone extreme. I just mean like, you know, what the standard calls for. You know, a nice bully dog. You're only going to get like one, maybe two if you're lucky. So if you breed to a classic, you revert back to the classic. If you breed a dog that's more classic, you basically revert right back to the pit bull, right back to the Amstaff. And I've seen that time and time again. And you see it with a lot of people. A lot of people will buy these more classic style females that don't have a lot of breed type. Then they try to pick a super extreme hype stud to breed to it, and 90% of the litter turns out to be classic. It happens all the time. So, but anyway, guys, that is, you know, a pretty good question and a little run through on that stuff. Just my thoughts on it. I think that's going to be a wrap on this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below if you have any other questions. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at bully.barn.b. Follow us on Facebook at bullybarn. Also, my phone number is 405-568-6846. Give me a text, give me a ring, whatever. You guys have a good one.